So a prototype of anything means it's, if we, comparisons would be if we were doing sculpture, we would make a little model first, sometimes called a maquette. If we were doing a video, we might storyboard it before we create that video or animation. So in terms of interactive design, or three-dimensional design like packaging or something like that, we call it a prototype. So it's more common nowadays to reserve using the word prototype specifically for interactive design. So meaning that we might be creating an app or a website or something to that effect, those types of things. So we're going to do a prototype for an app. You need to choose something, the topic, the subject, the company, for what you want to create the app for. Okay, so on our previous assignment, I gave you some possible companies to choose from and the option to pick another one of your own. In this case, I'm not giving you any choices. You know, you come up with whatever you want to create the app for. So I'll give you an example there that I may do this challenge along with you because I've wanted to create this app for quite a long time. And that is, I am a huge, huge fan of calamari. Huge. Calamari. Love it. And I'm also, I'd like to say I'm a connoisseur of it. And so every place that we go, we have as an appetizer, if they have it on the menu, we have calamari. And we started this quite a long time ago, comparing, well, is this as good as so-and-so? Is it better? Is it, you know, how is it better? What are the criteria that we're using to rate it? You know, all that kind of stuff. And so I jokingly one time said, I think I'm going to create an app for this and rate it and put it out there. It'd be kind of a cross between Yelp specifically to calamari, but it's kind of a joke as well. You know, it's a little bit in there. But at any rate, there would be criteria for how to judge it, how these are being rated by me, but it would also allow other people to go in there and enter their own restaurants that serve calamari and rate it as well. So if I were doing this brief, and I'm seriously thinking of doing it along with you, I think I'm going to do an app, a prototype for an app about rating calamari. Okay, you can create something as kind of halfway joking and realistic usable as that, or you might choose to make something that there's no joke aspect to it at all. And again, I think we're all pretty familiar with what an app is and the variety of types of apps that are out there. So you can pick and choose. Maybe I should give you one more example on that more straight ahead version. And that would be, let's say how to get around on the Pacific campus as an app. Not the website, but an app. You know, what are the places that someone who's here for, you guys are here pretty new on campus. And what are some things that you wish that there would have been easier to find? And so how can we create an app maybe that would make that possible? So that's more perhaps on the straight ahead version of thing. And since we just did an assignment that I am going to talk about a little bit more later with the icons for the GE program at Pacific, you're kind of thinking about the Pacific brand right now, and something that was for Pacific like this, how to get around, might be, you know, something you wanted to pursue. The last thing I'm going to say right now on the subject that you pick is that you do not have to all pick different subjects. You could all pick the same subject, or you could pick the same subject as one of your friends in class. You don't have to have a separate one, okay? So if you all wanted to do a calamari app, you could all do a calamari app. If y'all wanted to do some kind of find your way around Pacific app, you could all do that, or you don't have to do either one. All right, any questions so far? Alrighty. So then the idea here, the key concept behind this is interactivity. So the program that we're going to use to create the prototype is Adobe XD. Those of you that have Adobe Creative Cloud on your laptops, this is going to be fairly easy for you to use XD because it will be a part of that those programs that you already have as part of your Adobe Creative Cloud license, and you just simply, if you don't already have it downloaded to your laptop, you just go and open that one. I do recognize that it's going to be a little harder for you if you don't have Adobe on your laptop, and I'm not necessarily saying that you have to go get it, but you can get the free version of it, which will last plenty long enough for you to download the XD to your laptop and do it that way. On the other hand, if that's not something that you want to do, then the next option you have, of course, is using one of the computers either here in this lab, the print lab, or the computer lab. So you have that option. Okay. Then I am going to jump to XD. And let's move this. Okay, so it's going to come up like most Adobe programs with the screen that asks what kind of size artboard do you want to work on. So in XD, what that means is the artboard corresponds to a size of a device that we might view that we might view an app on or with. Okay, so you can design it. So the standard ones that show up is I can make a custom size, any size I want, just like we do with an artboard. But I can make one specifically for Instagram, for a web page, or for a phone. Okay, and then if you press on the downward arrow, you can pick different phones, for example, or different website, or that type of thing. So it's okay with me if whatever you pick. Some of you might want to create an Instagram story as your app. I'm okay with that. Some of you instead might want to create what we might more traditionally think of as an app that we view on a phone. I'm okay with that. So what we're talking about is creating a design challenge that is purposeful, that requires interactivity. That's really what we're talking about. Okay, but I'm not sure if I said it that way at the very first, it would make sense. So I just said app. We know what apps are. Okay, so, but now that we know this, an app is simply one version of interactive design, and you have a choice here. We're taking those choices from what's available in XD to learn a little bit about XD and making it. Okay, so I'm going to pick a phone, pick that, and it's going to show up now as what we're used to seeing and calling an artboard, but it is the dimensions of whatever I pick, in this case, an iPhone. If we look at the top part of the menu bar, there are four main areas here. There's the home screen, there's the design environment, there's the prototype environment, and there's how you can share it, usually like to your client, because we're doing a prototype. So your client can then check and see if your design is going along the way you want it to go. It's kind of a cool feature. I wish that was on every Adobe product. But at any rate, in the design environment, I can create shapes, I can write words, I can actually resize the artboard, but I don't know why I would do that here. Text, those types of things. So I can make those, this is the environment that is closest to Illustrator. It is a scaled down version of Illustrator, but it is closest to it. Now, having said that, you can create design that might be the basic static design. You can create that in Illustrator or Photoshop and simply copy and paste it in here as an image. The interactive shapes or words you need to create here. Well, that's not totally true either. I could have several images or icons. Let's take the icon sets that you made, and I bring the, oh, this could be an interesting app. Just thought of this. You could create an app for that accompanies your design icons, your GE icons. That's actually, I wish I'd have thought of this earlier. I would have made that the assignment, because that would be great to accompany and send on to the the GE committee. At any rate, you already have those images drawn. You could bring them in individually and then give them interactivity. And that's what the basic thing that I'm leading up to showing you how to do that. So I have this screen here. And so I am going to create a basic navigation system to demonstrate a little bit of this in the design environment. So I'm going to just use the shape tool here. And I'm going to make a rectangle. And I'm making it really big so we can see it. Then over here, I see it's not like Illustrator where those things are at the bottom of the toolbar here. They're over in its own little window on the side with fill. I press on that. I'm just going to pick red for that rectangle. I'm going to go back and take the circle tool, make a little circle, and again, fill in, let's give it a different color. And we'll go to the triangle because I want 3 things. And I do this. Now, if I just draw it freehand like this, they can make any old shape. Okay. We can also see that as I'm drawing it, there's a line that's going, I think you can see it on the screen. It's kind of a magenta line that projects out from it. We can use that to line things up. You know, if I want them all evenly spaced, then I can use that to do that. So let's undo and get back to just this. I've drawn this rectangle. This time, when I draw the circle, I'm going to hold down the Shift key, and it will now make a perfect circle. We're used to that. And at the same time, I'm holding on the Option keys. On the PC, it's an Alt, so Shift and Alt. Now the circle is going from the center. Same thing that you should be used to from Illustrator. And I drop it there. Now it's in line with my rectangle. That line that goes across there goes through the centers of both shapes. So I'm going to give it a fill. And now we're going to go to the triangle. And again, I'm going to hold down the Shift and Option key. It goes from the center. I now have a shape that all 3 of these are lined up through their centers. And again, I can go to fill. And let's see, color. And now I have these 3 shapes. My idea is that I'm going to have one of these buttons. The interactivity will mean that when I press it in the app, it will take me back to this home screen. This button is, this button I'm going to have go forward to the next screen. This one is going to go back to the previous screen. So very, very basic navigation system, right? So how do I do this? I need to create other screens. So I'm just moving this one over to the left. And if I click on the name, there we go, then the whole artboard is outlined. And if I hold down the Option or Alt key, I can drag to the right and it makes another one. Again, I can drop it and it's wherever it wants to be. If I redo that though and hold the Shift key down and Option key to make the copy, oops, and press on the name, now it's straight across from it. And I can continue to do that. Okay, to make multiple screens. Now I'm going to, in a minute, I'm going to redo this in a slightly different way and tell you why. So at the moment, I have the reason to do this is I didn't have to make that navigation system 3 times. It's duplicated those buttons or those shapes. They're not buttons yet, the shapes, as well as the artboard. It duplicated it in exactly the same place, which is what I want. But there's no interactivity. So to create the interactivity, I select the shape. In this case, I want to have this one go back to the home screen. I now have to change from the design environment to the prototype environment. And I think at first this is going to be a little confusing about, well, what do I do in which one? And the key to thinking about this is the prototype environment is where you create interactivity. It's where you create the links between things. It's where you tell one shape to do something. It's where you give an action to a button. Okay, so that's why I've gone to the prototype window. Notice in the prototype window, I no longer have those shape tools over here on the left. I don't have those color fills on the right. Those things are in the design environment. That's where I create the look. So I'm now in the prototype environment. I've selected this let's click away. So I've selected the rectangle, or if I click on the screen itself, in either case, notice there's a little blue circle with an arrow on the right-hand side. So in this case, it's on that whole window. In this case, it's attached to a shape. I could do that on a word. I could have a word written out. I click on it, it's going to give me that little thing. That is where I create the interactivity. So I just press on that blue circle and drag it over and drop it on where I want it to go. Okay, or in other words, on the app itself, if I clicked on that button, then it will take me back to the home screen. Now, okay, this one, which I should want to have it do the same thing. No, it hasn't been done yet. So I have to do it that one. And if I've got 10 screens, I have to do it 10 times. So let's back this up. Remember I said a minute ago, I was going to show you a different way to duplicate it where it's going to, actually I didn't say this, but it's going to duplicate not only shapes, but it will also duplicate the interactivity. Okay, so now I've got one window here. I need to make a second one. I need to make a second one to have some button on another screen. So I'm holding down the Shift and Option key again and dragging it to the right, but I'm doing it in the prototype environment. That's the key. I've duplicated it in the prototype environment. I'm now going to click on this red square and drag it to the left, give it an action. Now, when I duplicate this window and duplicate it again, every one of these red rectangles has already got the correct action. It's because I duplicated those things in the prototype environment. Okay? All right, so this means as much as you can do two things. Draw out ahead of time, just in sketching like we talked before, where you want things to go. And then the second part is in here, well, what actions will be the same action on more than one artbook? And in this case, I want to go to the home button. That navigation I want on all the screens, right? Except the home screen. So on the home screen, I would simply take this button and get rid of it here, because that is the home. But I want those to always go to the red one. That's the same action. So if you can think ahead based on your sketches of what you want to occur, then try to duplicate those things in the prototype environment, not the design environment. Okay? So, does anyone have a question on that particular thing? Makes sense? Okay. All right. Let's see. The other thing I briefly mentioned there is that if I click on the entire screen, so the whole screen is turning blue, it also has a button there for me to, if I click anywhere on the screen, it can take me someplace. So be aware of that. Now, I haven't done actions on the other two, so let me quickly do that. This one, I want to go to the previous screen. So it would go here. I can't duplicate that over because the previous screen is always a different screen. So I do need to do it that way in this case. And the same is true with the last button to go forward. I need to do that individually in this case as well. Whoops. There we go. And then this guy, if this is the last one, then I would delete that one there. Okay, so let's say I've got this. Now I want to test this out. I want to see if my interactivity is actually working. Okay, so what I first want to do is save. I haven't saved it at all yet, so I'm doing a save as, and I'm just going to call it test. And I'm going to go ahead and say save. And then when I come back, there we go. Come back to this in the upper right-hand corner. I have several options here. Invite to download is that first little person icon. The next one over is a device preview, which is the one that I want to use here. And then the third one over is a desktop preview. And then, oh yeah, and then the invite to document. So this is one where we can actually send the URL to somebody else. In your case, if you're designing something for your phone and you want to preview it on your phone, you can simply email it to yourself and call it up on your phone. If I click this first one to preview it here, oh, sorry, I did the share. So invite people to edit. So I would just type in my own email address here and send it. So in this case, I thought I could just, no, I got it. Okay, so I have it in there. That's me, and then I can invite to edit. So it's sent off. Okay. Now the other thing here in the desktop preview is this one. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Is I click on that arrow, and now it immediately comes up with a screen that is the size of what you would see on your phone. And now I have here my buttons. So I'm going to click on these and see if they work. So that is, I didn't number the pages. And so actually when I click this, it actually is going somewhere, but my pages basically all look the same. So what I would need to do to test this out is come back on here and put something that's different on each screen so that I can tell that it's actually moving. Okay. You can put pictures in here. You can put graphics in here. You can bring things directly, copy and paste from Photoshop, or you take pictures to put in there. You text you can bring in that you do from other programs or directly here. Any of those things can be given interactivity or essentially made into a button. So that's essentially what your assignment is. Okay, so you're trying to give interactivity in some kind of useful way. You can do it with a sense of humor or not. That's just another thing. You do want to try to keep a similar style, a brand, which we just got through talking about. So all of those things are still apply, but now we have interactivity thrown into the mix. And okay, any other? So as the design challenge, that other part I mentioned was Okay, I've given you everything in terms of the brief. If you were interviewing for a job, you would now have this opportunity only to ask questions. Okay, that's the way that would go. Now, I'm not going to be quite that strict because we're also going to have class on Thursday. And of course, you can email me things in between. But I do want you to understand how this works. I am okay with you creating interactivity in whatever program you want to use. I would also say that it is good to maybe learn different programs. This is an easy one, but you know, you might say, well, I'll do that another time. You know, I got enough on my plate with all my assignments and finals and things like that. I'm going to minimize any of those kind of things and work with the program I'm already familiar with. That's okay. Okay. Wix doesn't have a lot of interactivity because that's a template. Yeah, if you're designing, so Dreamweaver is a program where, I mean, there is template designs for that. And I'll be able to tell if you use the template. The idea here is that you're designing, and you could think of yourself like there's a huge, huge demand for designers that design the templates that get used by any of these programs. There's just as an aside, but the main purpose of this is for you to show your skill as a designer that's using interactivity. So I would say that if you use the parts, I don't, Wix would not be a good choice here. Dreamweaver could be. And there are certainly, in fact, I think I put links on there to other major programs that are out that are being used by UX designers to do prototypes as well as working versions of this stuff. I guess whatever program that you use, you need to be able to send me a URL so that I can check out and actually see the interactivity.
That was my question about the URL. Like, so say using XD, where would I pull the URL from to share?
It's where I was just saying, the email. So what you'll do is use that function in here to
to share like that.
Right.
Okay.
So
okay.
I was demonstrating as a way that you could test it on your own phone, but otherwise you would type in my address.
Okay.
And that would send it, that automatically sends me the URL. Okay. You just have to have it saved. So remember, I saved it first before doing that. Yeah. Yeah, good.
Of course.